What's up, girls and boys? We're back for another exciting video. Today I want to give my review on The Last of Us Part 2. I just finished the game about 2 days ago, but I had to give myself a little bit of time to see how I really felt about the game because it really packs a punch for us gamers to talk about. Now, I won't be getting too deep into the story or the specifics of the game, as I think it's important for people to play the game for themselves and experience all the nitty-gritty juicy stuff without having too much of my creative bias in the mix. But I will be giving my holistic review and explain exactly why I actually like the game and why I give it a 10 out of 10 review. While critiquing this game, I was reminded of my college professor and how she graded our illustration work. Now, every project in the class that was due, she graded it right on the spot. So we would enter the classroom, a project would be due, and we'd put it all on this shelf that was on the wall. And above this shelf, there was another one, and right below it was a bottom shelf. And so Robin, that was her name, she would walk back and forth looking at our work, quietly putting some of the work on the lower shelf and some of the work on the top shelf. A majority of the, the pieces would remain in the middle shelf. And basically the bottom shelf meant that you had a D or an F. Right on the spot, you knew exactly that you had failed this project. Middle shelf was a B or a C, and the top shelf obviously meant that you succeeded in getting an A. But one thing that she always reminded us of is the bottom shelf does not necessarily mean it is the worst work in the class. It's actually the work that would have been an A had it not been for one thing. She would always make an example of how there's a very fine line between great work and failing work. And if there's anything that we would take away from the class, is that. Anyway, let's get into the video and how I graded The Last of Us Part 2. Okay, so once I finished the game, I really thought about how would I, what would be the criteria of judging this game. So I thought that if I could interview myself, what would be those questions that would dictate, how I really felt about the game and how would I scale it from 1 to 10 based off of these interview questions that I would ask myself. And so the first question I would ask myself is, was I entertained? Is this game entertaining enough that kept me engaged? Did I play it all the way through? And bottom line, was it entertaining? The answer is yes. I was definitely entertained. The ebbs and the flows between the gameplay and the narrative really made me feel like I was fully immersed into this apocalyptic world. Again, this was, very similar to the first game. Great storytelling and, amazing gameplay. And the push and the pull of my emotions and how it with me every chance that it got really made me enjoy the story and the gameplay even more. So if I had to rate this game based on entertainment on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being I was bored out of my mind and 10, I was really entertained, I'd have to give this game a solid 10 for entertainment. I know what you're thinking and I know what you're going to comment, but what about Abby and playing her for 10 hours and how they forced you to sympathize with her after the first half of the game? You wanted to kill her. I know. I felt the same as everybody else who played the game, and at the time when they shifted into that direction, I told myself, look, I don't like this, but I'm going to go along with the roller coaster ride to see where this goes. And to be honest, when I got off the ride, I thought, wow, I was still entertained, even though those 10 hours were definitely something different than what I expected. Which brings me on to my second question that I asked myself. Did the game deliver more than I expected? And the answer is yes. It definitely gave me way more than I thought it would from a sequel game. I was really expecting Joel and Ellie to continue their relationship in some capacity, as this was the key feels that made me love the first game. However, they completely destroyed that expectation and gave me Abby.
You're a piece of shit, Abby. Found
Did I hate Abby? Yes. But in a good way. As soon as I started playing Abby, I knew this game was going to take a turn for the worst. But I still rode the roller coaster, and I knew that this was going to force me into a narrative that I didn't really expect. Now, was it a perfect narrative? No. It was definitely flawed. But it was those flaws that made me like the game, even more. Abby's redemption arc was such a twist from Ellie's revenge arc from the first half of the game that by the end of it all, I thought that it delivered way more drama and narrative than I was originally expecting. So if I had to rate on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being way less than I expected, and 10 being beyond all expectations, then yes, it would be a 10 for me as well. The next question I asked myself is this game relevant in 2020? And I'd say this is a hard yes. Now, 2020 has been such a polarizing year for being one of the worst times in history in my lifetime, and I don't believe Naughty Dog could have anticipated the events that are happening around the world today, but ironically, the unforgiving and relentless storyline and the stirring of emotions in me, I saw it as sort of a reflection in myself and, what's happening around me. From the leaks to the story and how people had an opinion about the game before it was even released, to the hate that was received when we found out we were playing Abby, the person who destroyed our first love for the game, Joel, the hate of the ending and how there wasn't a resolution to it, to breaking all-time sale records for the fastest selling PS4 exclusive game in its first few days, and then, the next week it crashed 80%. I mean, come on, it feels like this game was made for 2020. Even now, the debate between is this a horrible game or is this just a flawed masterpiece had they changed a few things around. If they moved the story arc of this before that or developed that before this, I think that this creative debate is exactly what a game of the year for 2020 should be all about, with all flaws considered. So if I had to rate this game 1 to 10 based off of relevancy for this year, 1 being irrelevant and 10 being very relevant in 2020, I'd have to give this one another 10. The next question I asked myself is this game one of a kind? And again, I'd say yes, it's definitely one of a kind. Now, like the first one, it has its brutal moments and it has beautiful ones. But as a franchise, I can't say I've played anything else like this aside from maybe Left 4 Dead 2 facing them zombie hordes.
We're gonna fight.
But in all seriousness, The Last of Us 2 for me is one of those games that twisted me in ways no other game has done. The fact that there was no clear good or bad characters in this game, but rather characters who are flawed and have good and bad intentions, made the experience unique for me. So if I had to rate this game 1 to 10 on originality, 1 being not original and 10 being one of a kind, I'd have to give this another 10. The last question I asked myself is, would I recommend this game to a friend? And yes, I would. This game is not for everyone, I know, but I love how it's getting people to have those creative debates on its imperfections, its ugliness, its controversies, and its cringiness. The story is rich in topics and themes that can keep me talking for hours. So how I see it, the more people who play the game, the bigger the conversations and discussions we can have about it, which I'm open and very excited to see the comments you leave below on how you either loved or hated this game. Now, the comments is where I'll do the deep diving into the nitty-gritty details, and I would be happy to chat about what made us tick on a creative level. And I think that's much better for me to hear what you have to say and respond rather than me giving a creative bias through this video. Hopefully this leaves room for me to learn perspectives about the game that I didn't see before and how it made you gamers feel as you guys are finishing it. Now, if I had to grade this game 1 to 10 based on how I'd recommend it to others, again, I would give this a 10 because I think it's very rare to have a game like this strike this kind of reaction and debate across the gaming community. So based on these factors, did I enjoy the game? Did the game deliver more than I expected? Is the game relevant in 2020? Is the game one of a kind? And would I recommend this game to a friend? It gets a 10 out of 10 for me. Again, I'm happy to discuss in detail what I thought of the story and the character development in more detail in the comments below. I don't think the game was perfect, but again, I enjoyed its quirks and its flaws. As a creative director myself, I might have done a few things differently, but that gets into a more personal taste and that's best saved for another video or the comments below. I want to thank everyone supporting the channel and helping it grow. Please crush that like button if you enjoyed the video and consider subscribing to see more videos like this one. Don't forget to hit that bell to be notified. And again, I love all of you watching out there. Be safe, and I will see you in the next one.